In this video, we're going to take a look at a turquoise ink by Akkerman, their number 11. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also down in the description is a link to the turquoise playlist, so if you wanted to see more, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy. Let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, no spread. We get shading that shows up very nicely in the Akkerman, in the stub. We get shading that shows up very nice in the extra fine and in the medium. Now the extra fine and the medium showed about the same tone, a little lighter than the stub. The extra fine takes 7 seconds to dry while the medium takes 11. Scrubby for both show good color variation, and it's definitely there in the writing. And the smear test you could probably recover if you smeared while you were writing. In order to have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Pelikan P200 with a medium nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, no spread, no shading in any of the writing. The extra fine and medium are both very light compared to the stub. The extra fine took 10 seconds to dry while the medium took 22. The scrubby for both do show a slight bit of color variation, but it's not showing up in the writing, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we do see this very cool green leaning turquoise at the bottom and a nice blue line at the top, which is what makes this color look so very nice. I think it looks great on the page. The one on the right that's allowed to dry for 10 minutes, it looks exactly the same. I don't expect any kind of resistance from this ink. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, no spread. We get some nice shading in the stub. We get it to show itself in the extra fine and in the medium. This is a very cool looking color. The extra fine is a tad bit lighter than the medium, and the stub is far darker than anything else on the page. The extra fine is 7 seconds to dry while medium took 11. Scrubby for both do show some color variation. It's definitely there in the writing, and the smear test you could probably recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles itself much better than I ever expected it to. I would feel safe using it in a note-taking situation if I needed to go back and highlight. Water is completely reactivating it and lifting it off the paper. It also completely cleaned it out of my pen. The pen flush does everything that water does and nothing more, because you can't do more than clean it all. In the 1/3 bleach solution, you're not going to need it, but it does destroy it. The next writing sample is done on TWSBI notebook paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread. We do get some shading in the stub. We don't really get it to show through in the extra fine, but the medium does have some spots where it shows itself. The extra fine's a little bit lighter than the medium, while the stub's a lot darker than the medium. Extra fine took 7 seconds to dry and medium took 12. Scrubby for both do show some color variation, and while it's there in the medium, it's not there in the extra fine, and I don't see what it's doing in a medium as especially stand out. Now the smear test you might be able to recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Akkerman's number 11 has a viscosity of 2.24. Making it normal. The next writing sample is done on moleskin paper. This is known for its horrific performance with fountain pen ink. So this isn't a surprise for as much as getting deep into the page, but none of this is touching the page underneath. So there is the good news in that. You just can't use the back of the page. Now, both the medium and the extra fine have a tremendous amount of feathering, and it's very distracting on the medium, but livable on the extra fine. We have no spread for either of them. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the medium. Neither of them show any color variation or shading in the writing. The extra fine only took 2 seconds to dry. Its scrubby does show some color variation, though it was not in the writing. And the smear test, you do stand a strong chance of recovery if you smear while you're writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Akkerman's number 11 has an average dry time of 11 seconds, meaning it's a little bit faster than normal to dry. The last writing sample is done on 20-pound copy paper. Now, for all that's bleeding heavy into the paper, none of it is coming through the paper and corrupting the next page. All of it means you can't use the back of the page, though. And we get a bunch of feathering. It's all tiny feathering in the medium and in the extra fine. Both of them experience some spread, but I do see the spread that's happening with the medium being problematic. The extra fine, I think you could live with it if this is what you really had to do. The extra fine is a lighter tone than the medium. The extra fine took 1 second to dry. No shading in either of them. The scrubby for the extra fine shows a tiny bit of color variation, but it's definitely not there. The smear test says you can't smear it, so don't worry about it. And that's my phone telling me I have a lot of messages coming in. Instead of finding inks that look like Akkerman's number 11, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a red ink from Atramentis, their Poppy Red. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Akkerman's number 11? This is a cool feeling turquoise. Cool as in temperature of tone. That has decent shading in this ink. I like this, and it is easy for me to read. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? I really am enjoying its look the most from a medium flow, medium pen. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video is Sailor Kobe number 30.